Mr. Carney, when will there be an election?
Fresh off the heels of his landslide victory, Mark Carney on Parliament Hill to discuss what comes next.
The transition between the Prime Minister and myself, that transition will be seamless and it will be quick.
On day one as Liberal leader, Carney meeting with the Prime Minister, then rallying his caucus with a speech.
We're united to serve Canadians, and we will build this country.
The party is rejuvenated, re-energized.
The first MP who publicly called on Justin Trudeau to resign says he's among those Carney's now convinced to run again in the next election.
He said, look, you could be a part of my team. I would like you to reconsider.
Mark Carney! Carney gearing up to send Canadians to the polls, trying to build on the momentum he saw Sunday night.
We have to win this election, the big election, and we will stand shoulder to shoulder together to do it.
He won the leadership with 86% of the vote. Trudeau's former principal secretary helped Carney's campaign team.
I think the country could use an election, frankly. I think the country could use a government with a strong mandate to negotiate with Donald Trump.
Carney, who's never held public office before, is facing an uphill battle. Canada's in a trade war, and the Conservatives are leading in the polls and attacking him.
The Conservatives are resorting to the kind of dirty personal politics that Mr. Poilievre has been known for.
Poilievre has immense talent to destroy people's reputations. And he's on full bore right now.
The Conservatives have been calling on Carney to disclose his personal financial holdings to the Ethics Commissioner, which isn't required of contenders. And tonight, some news. Carney's spokesperson says he's now divested all of his assets other than his personal real estate into a blind trust. That's 4 months ahead of the official deadline to do so.
Ashley, can we keep talking about timing here, including starting, I suppose, with when he will take office?
Yeah, Adrienne, former cabinet minister Marco Mendicino has been tapped as Carney's chief of staff through this transition, and Carney is expected to become prime minister and swear in his cabinet sometime this week. Then sources say Carney's aiming to trigger an election before Parliament was set to return at the end of the month, with a vote at the end of April or early May.
All right, Ashley Burke in Ottawa tonight. Thank you. CBC's chief political correspondent Rosie Barton joins us now. Rosie, Mark Carney is taking power at, obviously a crucial time for this country.
For sure, Adrienne. He steps into this with an enormous challenge in front of him. Already this week, as you know, Donald Trump has said he's pushing ahead with those tariffs on steel and aluminum. We've got that April 2nd date coming with retaliatory tariffs. So Carney spent most of his day with the current prime minister, who gave him some thoughts on how to deal with Donald Trump. But until Carney's sworn in officially as prime minister, he's a bit limited in what he can do. We know he wants to meet with the premiers quickly, and he wants to get on the phone directly with Donald Trump as well. So one thing to watch is also who stays in cabinet roles that they currently have. Because of their strong relationships with Americans, we could expect ministers like Mélanie Joly and Dominic LeBlanc to stay put. This kind of transition, just so people know, normally happens over a much longer period of time. And when the stakes are this high for the country, it's going to be really important to get this right.
Just want to pick up on something. You talked about cabinet there, and as Ashley said, we'll expect that likely by the end of the week. What else? What else are we waiting for?
So it's going to be a cabinet that's really responding to this moment, to Donald Trump, sort of like a wartime cabinet. It has to be people who will be able to be doing an election campaign and still do their jobs as ministers. We had heard also that it might include people who are not elected, which is unusual, but is allowed, something other prime ministers have done. For example, one of those people is former Quebec Premier Jean Charest, who's been helping Prime Minister Trudeau on the Canada-US Council. I know you spoke with him recently. Sources tell us Charest was approached by the Carney camp to play some sort of role. We don't know what was offered to him specifically, but we do know that Charest declined. But that gives you, I think, a bit of a sense of the kind of people the Carney camp is turning to.
Okay, interesting. Rosie, thank you.
Thanks.
Very clearly, Pierre Poilievre and his team are eager for a federal election. But with the trade war, shifting polls, and now a new Liberal leader, the Conservative leader faces a challenge. Kate McKenna shows us how the party is responding.
For Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, it's a whole new fight.
Carney puts himself first. Conservatives will put Canada first.
His party has itched for an election for months.
We are going to have a carbon tax election.
But the conditions have changed. The Liberal government says it could kill the consumer carbon tax before the next election.
We're looking into how that could be done and how rapidly it can be done.
The country's focus has shifted to tariffs from the U.S.
I think Donald Trump creates a huge problem for Pierre Poilievre, and it's in the simple fact that 1 in 3 of his own supporters like Donald Trump, and 2/3 don't.
The pollster says Trump's threats helped shrink the gap between Liberals and Conservatives.
At the end of the year, the Liberals were barely hitting 20% in the horse race. Today, in some polls, they're ahead. Our poll, they're not far behind. They're up almost 10 points in 2 months. That is unprecedented.
In response, Poilievre is positioning himself as the best option to protect Canadian jobs.
Trump seizes on weakness, and nobody's weaker than Mark Carney.
Conservatives are also trying to tie Mark Carney to Justin Trudeau's record.
There should be no surprise that his viewpoint about Mark Carney and the Liberal Party is that the Liberals are essentially going not for a first term under Mr. Carney, but a fourth term.
But Poilievre's message was not shared by the progressive Conservative Premier of Ontario, speaking on Bloomberg TV.
Carney, extremely bright individual when it comes to finances and other areas of business. He's right in line with what I believe in.
All opposition parties say they're ready for a campaign. The Conservatives have already nominated more than 2/3 of their candidates, and their war room is already opened. An election is expected within weeks, and as Donald Trump has shown, that's a long time in politics. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.